Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm going to continue with the legal system of Canada, which right now is there is no law. I think I've mentioned this before. I spoke to a woman at the Law Referral Service, and she listened to me and the problems I'd had in the court with employers and the courts. She said, "Mr. Whedon, stop talking. I'm going to tell you something very important." I said, "Okay, what's that?" "There are no laws in Canada." I laughed. I said, "You're joking." She says, "No, I'm not joking. It's true." She said, "I've been a lawyer for a long time. There are no laws in this country, not one." So this has to do with a car accident I was involved with, and I have a permanent back injury, and I take painkillers to this day. And it was probably the year was 2003. I didn't work for, God, almost 2.5 years, 3 years, longer than that actually. Anyway, I got a lawyer, local one. His name is Terry Hewitt. He owns the Columbia Law Office. He had another lawyer working for him named Adam Shea. So I went through all of the rigmarole of doctors, therapy. I ended up with a GP who, when he found out this was it was an insurance claim against the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. They were, since I was not at fault in the accident, and I still have this permanent back injury, hasn't improved much, a little bit. I have exercises to do that were given to me by the GP. And he said, you could have surgery, but it's only 40% successful. I don't recommend surgery. I've just learned to live with it. I said, "You know what? I don't work very much. I'm living on borrowing money and barely paying my way. In fact, for a short time, I lived in my car. I had to. Couldn't pay the rent." He says, "Well, you're going to get a settlement anyway from the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia." So Adam Shea, who was not very attentive, my GP, the last time I saw him, he said, told me, "I've spoken to your lawyer." He says, "And I sent him a letter, and I'm going to give you a copy of this letter that I sent to him, that you have to be examined by a specialist. You're going to court." He says, "I'm just a GP. I can confirm that, yes, you're injured, but I can't give you specifics of the injury and how it's going to affect your life. That's the job of a specialist." So I've written to him, and he hasn't written me back. Anyway, eventually we got a settlement hearing. It's almost 4 years later after the accident, pretty close to 4 years. And we're in a high-rise building, commercial building. And the adjudicator was a retired lawyer. And I'm sitting with Adam Shea. He's on my left. I barely know him. I've spoken to him on the phone. He has my file, of course. But as it turned out, this was a settlement hearing, which my lawyer did not tell me about. Sorry. Anyway, we all sit down. The Insurance Corporation of British Columbia has a lawyer beside them. I answer an awful lot of questions from this man about my identity, how it's affected me, things like that. You know, normal, I guess, background information that they needed. So the Insurance Corporation, after they finished their little talk, they said, "Okay, so this is what we're going to offer you in settlement." My lawyer leans forward, Adam Shea. He said, "Nothing. We're not paying anything. You don't have a medical report here that shows that you have any injury whatsoever. Just a GP wrote on a list. He's describing what. Says you have no evidence to show you have an injury at all." The adjudicator, who's a retired lawyer, stares right at Adam Shea, my lawyer. And Adam Shea now, as I discovered, is a stutterer. So he says, I'll get it before the court date." And then the ICBC lawyer, he said, "I need a few minutes with my client here." So they step outside. The adjudicator stands up. He stares right at Adam Shea. He said, "You don't have a medical report done?" He says, "Well, I don't need it." He says, "You don't need it. How are you going to convince a judge that your client has a permanent back injury? How are you going to do that without a specialist's report?" He says, "Well, like I said, I'll get it." "You'll get it." He said, "Listen to me. I'm not supposed to be talking to you at all, but you better show there's risk here or you're getting nothing today." He walked out of the room. Adam Shea turned to me and he says, "This is all your effing fault. I hate these things. I hate them. I hate these effing cases." He does not like personal injury. And he says, he told me that, he says, "Our insurance rates are way too high, way too high." They all come back in. Sit down. And my lawyer, he decides, stuttering all the way through, that he has a very solid case. He will have the medical evidence available for the court. And he says, my client will accept $35,000 in payment. I turned to look at him because we did not discuss this at all. My lawyer did not ask me or discuss with me anything about the number. I thought, oh my God, that's it, $35,000? Because Terry Hewitt had told me that he had a woman client that he got $325,000 for. But as I was later to find out, Terry Hewitt likes women. Doesn't like men very much, but women, oh, wow. So I would go on and on. In the end, we end up with $9,000. And the adjudicator's got his head up back like, oh my God, right? So they leave. ICBC and the lawyer leave. I'm just stunned. I have never seen such behavior. I didn't know the lawyers use the F word on you when I'm paying him $250 an hour. I paid him almost $5,000 in costs. I got a little under $5,000. He got $4,700 something, I think. So we leave, and the adjudicator gets on the elevator hoping that the door's going to close, but Adam Shea wants to canoodle. He wants to do the lawyer talk thing, and be buddies because we're both in the bar, we're both lawyers. So I follow them into the elevator. And the adjudicator is just looking at the ceiling, and Adam Shea is, this and that, and the important cases of the day, the important stuff that's happening in the city. And then the adjudicator stares at me, and he just shakes his head like this. So we get off the elevator. The adjudicator hasn't talked yet. We leave the building, we're walking down the sidewalk, and the adjudicator's car, so now I'll tell you what it was, he had an upscale BMW. He's a retired man, but he's got a nice car. So we stop by the car. And Adam Shea is still prattling on, really, trying to be a lawyer friend. So the adjudicator says, wait. He says, you are a goddamn disgrace to this profession. A disgrace! He walked to his car, started up, and drove away. Adam Shea turned to me and he said, this is all your effing fault. And he left me standing on the sidewalk and he walked back to the office, which wasn't very far away. So I go home and I call my lawyer friend and I tell my lawyer friend what happened to me. He says, oh, no, we got to go downtown. He said, we're going to go to the law library downtown. So we do that. In Vancouver, city of Vancouver, go to the law library. Turns out there's a list of things that must get done, depending on the court case. It's a checklist. And the lawyer has to check off all of these things that he has done before he can enter the courtroom and take over the case, start your case, right? 3 things on that list are not done. One of the most important one is there is no medical report from a specialist. Nothing. And there was 2 more things. So anyway, photocopy it, go home. And my lawyer friend says, you either write to Terry Hewitt, who owns Columbia Law Office, or you write to the Law Society and complain. So I wrote to Terry Hewitt. He wrote me back and he said, I've discussed this with Adam Shea and I find nothing whatsoever wrong with his conduct. Nothing. So I write him back and I send him a copy of the checklist. And I describe to him the 3 things that are missing. Terry Hewitt never wrote to me again. So I phoned. He's got a secretary, a woman. She said, who is this calling? I said, it's Terry Wheaton calling. Oh, I see. Well, he's busy. I said, listen, I want to know if he got that checklist. And she says, I know, he's got it, yes. I said, well, there's 3 things missing on it. She said, Mr. Wheaton, we do not use checklists of any kind. Now, the checklist is put out by the Law Society themselves to keep everything above board. Anyway, that's the law in British Columbia. I could have complained to them, but every time I complain to the Law Society about a lawyer, they blow me off. They don't want to. The Law Society is effectively Union Central. Union Central. And this is a sign that exists in the United States on courthouses. See what it says? Where law ends, tyranny begins. As that woman lawyer told me, there are no laws. It is tyrannical. I've been in the courts quite a few times. Even when you win, you lose. This First Nations woman here quit her job. Okay? But as you can see, it's 45,000 cases that have not been heard by the federal government. The feds won't hear them. People that are trying to get compensation for their losses are shut out. Like I was shut out. It cost me $250 an hour for my lawyer, but he did pro bono, which means I don't have to pay him a retainer. I didn't have the money for a retainer anyway. And the courts can get you for that because you're going to be shut out, because if you don't have $5,000 or $10,000, whatever the hell it is, you're not going to get service. And even if you did, 45,000 people did and got nowhere. Same as me. Where law ends, tyranny begins. Canada is tyrannical. You should be able to see this now with our woke Prime Minister, who does whatever the hell he wants. There's no checks, there's no balances. He breaks the ethics codes, nothing happened. He raped one of his students, he was not charged with rape. He doesn't deny the rape happened. The school that he worked for fired him. He's the only teacher in the history of the school who has ever been fired. What did they fire him for? They will not discuss it. Why not? Because he's Pierre Elliott Trudeau's son. And Pierre Elliott Trudeau's real name is Joseph, actually, and his son is Justin. And in the United States, we've got Joe Biden. I don't know what it is with all the Joes. Anyway, Jojo Stalin, I don't know if anybody remembers Joseph Stalin. All these tyranny people, they seem to have Joe for their name. I'm going to have to cut this down because YouTube's only giving me 10 minutes. Thanks for listening to me. It's horrible the way we live in Canada. I don't recommend coming here or living here. We have now 1 million illegal immigrants. The RCMP are running across the border of Canada in Quebec province into the United States, grabbing the illegal immigrants, children, the old people, their luggage, and bringing it across the border into Canada. No RCMP officer has ever picked up my luggage in an airport and taken it to my car for me. Ask anybody in Canada that's ever happened. But the RCMP will do it for illegal immigrants.